Alright guys, welcome to the video, and today I'm going to be talking about why the training that you're doing might not be producing the results that you want, and we're going to be focusing this through the lens of agility training. The more I train and learn, the more I realise that there are these patterns that repeat themselves throughout not only training but life in general. And if a business has an amazing product that could be beneficial to millions of people, it's essentially useless if nobody knows about it because they're unaware about how to market it properly. Performing an exercise or even having a perfect workout plan which could have been produced by the most qualified instructor doesn't automatically mean you're going to reap the rewards of it, because there are other factors at play that aren't always so obvious, and these can only be understood through experience and iteration. When I say this, I'm not just talking about things that you can see on the surface, such as having good form technically, for instance. Rather, it's things that you can't always see with the eye, and that's going to be the focus of this video. So many people get frustrated and become discouraged when they aren't seeing results they want, which naturally leads them to conclude that their training plan is ineffective. It's kind of like the analogy of how the bad workman always blames his tools, and similar to how that business in the example might come to the conclusion that their product's no good because nobody's bought it, but in reality that was never the issue in the first place. And you might think, well, so what? But the implications are really far-reaching of this, because if you base all of your future actions on that false premise, then you're setting yourself up for a lot more unnecessary work that'll ultimately lead nowhere and miss the real reason that you're not actually seeing the results. So that business might conclude they need to completely rebuild the product entirely while missing the crucial marketing element, and then when it's finally ready to be launched, once again there's just crickets. Now, I know that's a very elaborate example, but I chose that because I want to really drive home how many people often overlook the most important things in training, but overlooking these things that seem small and inconsequential more often than not are the real reasons why they're not actually seeing the results they want. So with that out of the way, we'll go back to the focus of this video, which is agility drills. Now, when you're doing agility drills, it's not about the exercises you're doing, but more about the way in which you do them. And this is very similar to how I talk about intention in striking, and how a certain threshold of intent needs to be applied in order to signal the muscles to adapt and actually get stronger. And if your level of intent is below that threshold and you're always training in a way that's very slow and methodical, then you might be able to perform what technically looks like a nice technique, but it won't have that force behind it simply because you haven't needed it to. And this is something that can be really tricky to quantify though, and I want you guys to realize in all of these videos, when I point to a specific thing like this, it's somewhat nuanced and is never usually black and white. So it's not as if slow and methodical training doesn't have its place, it certainly does, but rather I'm talking about if a person is too heavily unbalanced towards one area, simultaneously neglecting that other side of it. And so in order to develop agility, one of the main components is utilizing exercises that involve a change in direction. But a huge caveat is that they must be done quickly and forcefully in order to provide the body with the signals to grow those relevant muscles. The definition of inertia in physics is something that continues in its existing state of motion until that state is changed by an external force. And when we initiate movement in a certain direction, our body begins to build momentum. And to train agility effectively, you need to intercept that momentum using your hips and core muscles in order to initiate a change in direction. And when done consistently, this forces those muscles to adapt to those movements. And this is called specific adaptation to imposed demands, or the S.A.I.D principle. And essentially it's the body recognizing there's an energetic load being placed on it in some capacity, and so it begins to evolve itself to be able to cope with that load. So when I said that it's not the exercises themselves, rather the way in which you do them, this is exactly what I mean. When many people go wrong and become discouraged is they're doing the right exercises but just in the wrong way, and so it doesn't work for them. The most common way this happens in this agility training is the person performing the exercises are too relaxed and they're not moving quickly enough. When this happens, your momentum slows down considerably and the muscles don't have to work hard in order to counteract it, and therefore they simply just don't develop. So the way this feels if you're doing this is the center of gravity begins to kind of settle down during the movements, and that's when you know you're not in the right zone. And you've probably noticed I perform these really rapidly, but that's because I'm quite experienced in them and have worked up to it. So I don't want you to mistakenly think that if I'm not doing it like Grant, then it's not going to work for me. What you see on screen now is what I'd say is the minimum level of effort you can put in these before you're going to be able to see any benefits. And if you're just starting out, you can build up from there to a much higher level. Training these to the right level where they're really working for you should be quite taxing and stressful. The muscular contraction should happen so frequently that it almost feels as if you're under constant tension and really under pressure to move again instantly without rest. You might have seen me demonstrate these isolated agility drills in other videos, but this same principle applies across all of them. But it's also the same if you're using something like an agility ladder as well. Now, once you've learned the basic footwork patterns that you're going to be executing, the real development with this tool happens as you begin to speed up and go more intense, almost to the point where you're tensing that often that it looks like your upper and lower body appear to be kind of disconnected and like you're just gliding over the ladder. So I hope you enjoyed this one, guys. Although we just focused on agility today, this principle carries across across to many different training modalities that you're using, so be sure to kind of watch out for it there and don't just go into something blindly. If you found value in this video, please like and subscribe to my channel for more content just like this, and also consider sharing it with somebody that you think could benefit from it as well. See you in the next video, guys.